All right, so I wanted to share with you all a few things. We want to talk about marriage and just another aspect of it, and just a few things that the Lord had laid on my heart to share with you all. And specifically, especially, I want to talk to you, you men, you brothers here, you young men that will get married one day. I just want to share some things with you all to help you out. I got a text message from my daughter, Taylor. She was in the hospital having surgery, and of course, her life and things like that. And she was sharing that the Lord had been dealing with her. Like she was praying, I think, to the Lord, asking the Lord what was wrong, like what was going on, and why.
Kind of why she couldn't get it together.
Why she couldn't get it together. And in a nutshell, I'm gonna just sum it up. In a nutshell, the Lord began to reveal to her that she had trust issues. Because Taylor, although she's friendly, she said she didn't get real close to people. And of course, relationships that she had with guys or whatever, that never worked, never went far or anything like that. And so she said the Lord told her, if I'm not mistaken, that he didn't trust him. And because she didn't trust him, then it made other relationships that she had begin to fail. Like not just all kind of relationships, not just boyfriend girlfriend relationships, but just always having falling outs with people, and things like that. And so she prayed further, and the Lord revealed to her that. So when me and her mama separated, she was praying and asking the Lord to put me and her mama back together. And she said that she had faith. Like she was, of course, she grew up under my preaching, so she believed anything she prayed for, the Lord would give her, because that was the pattern in her life. I raised my children when they were sick to pray. That was our household. I never had to take them to the doctor or anything like that. When they got sick, if one of them was sick, I tell the rest of them, y'all gather around her or him and pray. And that was their life growing up. And so when she prayed that her mother and I would get back together, and we didn't, she said that the Lord revealed to her, that's where your mistrust of me came. You stopped trusting me, and because you stopped trusting me, it played out in other areas in your life where you were afraid, and this is what the Lord was telling her, that she was afraid to commit now in anything too far because she was really, I guess, in a nutshell, she was afraid of disappointment. Like, if that make any sense. And so she said she didn't realize that she was still carrying that hurt and things like that from me and her mother not getting back together. Now, me personally, I don't have anything against her mother personally. And I'm gonna just talk about me in the marriage. I felt like, just growing, because I was 20 when we got married. I was 20 and her mother was 27. And just looking back on things, I felt like I know I could have been a better husband. But I was young, didn't know a whole lot about being married. I did what I knew to do at the time. But I felt like I could have been a better husband, if that makes any sense. And I made the mistake of thinking, because, of course, as time went on, we began to grow apart first spiritually, where she no longer was involved in Bible study that we'd have as a family. She was no longer praying. We weren't praying together anymore, things like that. And so we began to separate spiritually. Now, that's the way it always takes place. If you start off together spiritually and you begin to separate spiritually, then all you got is natural, and sex ain't that good, if that makes any sense. That's not enough to keep you together, especially when marriage is spiritual to begin with, you see. And so, but I made the mistake. So we began to separate spiritually, where we were not on one accord spiritually. And I made the mistake. Now, I want you brothers to hear me clearly. I made the mistake of thinking I could be a good father without being a good husband to their mother. It ain't gonna happen. How you treat your wife, it doesn't matter. You could be taking your children out to get ice cream every day. Somebody can give you Father of the Year, but those children are looking at how you're treating their mother. Does everybody understand that? And so I made the mistake of thinking, I made the mistake of separating fatherhood from husbandhood. Okay, so you and I ain't working out right now. We ain't getting along right now. But you know what? I'm going to love on my children, and at least I got that. And as a husband, when you're married, that's the wrong thinking to have. You are not a good father if you're not a good husband. Does everybody understand that? Because your children are looking at how you're treating their mother. Doesn't mean they enjoy the ice cream. They thank God you got your little award for Father of the Year. But why is Mama always sad? Why is Mama not in this Bible study? See, I wasn't taking that into account. I was thinking, okay, so your mama don't want to be involved. I wouldn't speak against her or anything, but I would just take, okay, so y'all come on, we're gonna do a Bible study. But it wasn't dawning on me that they were missing her. It wasn't dawning on me that it was affecting them. Does everybody understand that? And so if I had to do it all, and I'm just sharing this and being candid because I want you to understand that it's impossible to be a good, because what did God create first? The husband. You're the husband first, and then you're the father. And so your fatherhood never surpasses your husbandhood, your position as a husband, if you're married. Does everybody understand that? Your fatherhood never goes above how you are as a husband. Never. If you're not a good husband, then you will not be that good of a father. Does everybody understand that? Even if because you have to keep in mind, no matter how you're disconnected from your wife, your children are still connected to them. So no matter what's going on between you two, those children, they want both of you to be happy together. But that's the way God designed it. Not for you to be creating two households under one roof. Does everybody understand that? So if I had to do it all over again, that's what I would do differently. Not saying that I want a second chance. I promise you I don't. I sincerely pray for her happiness in her new marriage and things like that. I'm glad that God has blessed me with the wife that he's blessed me with. But, I'd be a fool to have an experience of a 13-year-old marriage and not learn something from it. See? And so that to me, that was the main thing. And to see how it hurt them, because I believe all of my children are dealing with that. This lack of commitment. You've heard me say before, like they don't have lifelong friends like what we had growing up. And I couldn't figure out. I thought, what's wrong with this generation where, like I said, my best friend, we've been friends since the first grade. The friend I got over near Nashville, he and I have been friends since 1993. So what in the world, why is all of these, it's not like they're not meeting people. So why is all of these different relationships, all these different people that they're coming across, why is there no cohesive attachment where they can say, you know what, she and I, or he and I, we've been friends for years and years and years. You know why? Because of what they saw at home. Does everybody understand that? Children, their whole stability, the first thing God connects them to is that husband and wife, their parents. That's the first thing, that's their first connection. And literally so, that child is attached to the mother. Now let's think about this spiritually. So, just and connect the natural part. That child is attached to that mother through that umbilical cord. That's where they get their nutrients from. That's what feeds them. What the mother is eating feeds that child. But here's the question. What is the husband feeding the mother that's feeding the child? Does everybody understand that? Women have miscarriages because of stress in a marriage. Does everybody understand? And so our job as fathers to our children, first and foremost, is to love our wives and bring them along. And that was the mistake I made in my first marriage. I didn't bring my ex-wife along. All it took was for her to say, "Well, I don't want to pray with you tonight. I don't want to pray. I don't want to do Bible study." Okay, so that's my cue. I'm gonna establish my own little Bible study. I'm gonna do this all on my own, and you can just play catch up later. But that was the beginning of the end of our marriage. When I thought you got a Bible, you can read it. You got knees, you can get on your knees and pray on your own. You see? And so there was no wonder when it was time for me to begin to move in the deep things of God and walk by faith and things like that, she couldn't go along with it. She began to question the decisions that I made because I didn't bring her along. The Bible says that faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. She wasn't hearing the word of God because I got our children in another room doing Bible study. Does everybody understand that? And so when it came, I had built enough faith. Okay, so the Lord told me to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. And then her question, so how you know that was the Lord? Well, I knew it was the Lord, but how would she know that it was the Lord? If I'm in my own separate room doing my own Bible study with the children understood. I could have told my children, the Lord, thus said the Lord, y'all can go walk on water. Y'all going out there to the pool and try it out. They'd all been out there trying it. That's just what but not their mother. You see that? And see, what I didn't see and what I was not counting on was the effect that it would have on our children, that they are under one roof, but the house is split in half. That there's this separation there. So what it did, it created this mistrust. Okay, so if I can't depend, you think about what a child would think. If I can't depend on what brought me here to stay connected and to be connected, then what can I depend on? The reason why I'm in this world is because of y'all connection. So what can I depend on? You see that? So is it a wonder why they couldn't get into good relationships? Is it a wonder why they had trust issues? Does everybody understand that? And I tell you, so now, of course, so now we're here today. And so we went over what I believe my mistakes were in my first marriage. I'm trying to encourage you brothers and sisters in here, especially you brothers, if you're married to your wife now, you stay married. Does everybody understand that? And I don't mean just be married on paper. I mean you create an atmosphere for your home that is conducive to raise children in. Children are not greens. They can't grow all year in any climate. Does everybody understand that? They're more delicate. You can plant. What's that plant you can plant and it'll just grow in anything? I know okra. You can plant okra, you ain't got to do nothing to it. It raised itself. But children are not okra. They can't grow up in anything. How many of you ever picked okra? Actually went out. How many of you ever made the mistake of wiping your face out in the sun after picking it? If you look at okra real close, it's got like some kind of fiberglass looking stuff on it. Real sticky stuff. We used to pick it when I was growing up. And if you out there in the sun and you far away from a faucet or whatever, and you out there wiping sweat off, it's gonna feel like you putting a little glass in your face. So okra, but see, that's the kind of children you'll have. Real rough around the edges. You'll create. Listen, we're supposed to raise our children to be independent. They ain't supposed to be 3 years old and independent. Does everybody understand what I mean now? They're not supposed to be like okra. They ought to want a hug every now and then. They ought to want some kind of reassurance every now and then. They ought not to be. You ought not to be able to put them in a room and they stay in there all day without seeing you, and ain't bothered at all. The only way a child can be that way is if mom and daddy are that way. Does everybody understand that? And so that's not God's will. And so children require a certain climate to grow the way they're supposed to grow. Children need to see their parents hug. Does everybody understand? They need to see love there. They don't need to be trying to figure out, are y'all kin? Are y'all brother and sister? They don't need to be trying to figure out family secrets. Does everybody understand that? It ought to be clear to them. Y'all are husband and wife, not brother and sister. That's to figure it out later on. Y'all are third cousins. So that was the mistake I made. And I'm trying to share with you all, you know, you don't have to make that same mistake. You're still young. You're still in your marriage. You don't have to wait. You don't have to, listen. Every day that you're alive, you have a chance to make the best of your marriage. But don't think, and you may have, you and your husband, you and your wife, y'all may have figured, well, you know, we ain't going nowhere. I done got ugly. He done got ugly. We ain't got no chance with nobody else. We ain't, you know, we stuck. I'm saying you ought not to get settled in a place. You ought not to just settle. Because what happens, so while y'all are settled, your children are growing up, and it's too late when they get grown. They don't care nothing about y'all hugging when they 18 or 19. Does everybody understand that? Well, they can care less. They trying to hug somebody who they gonna marry. So you ain't got that long, I'm saying, to make an impression on your children with your marriage. The first preacher your child hears is your marriage. Does everybody understand? They don't care what you talking about. The first preaching they hear is that marriage. How y'all treating one another? Does everybody understand that? So you don't have a very long time to make that impression on your children. Like, okay, so me and your daddy, we stayed together all these years. That's not enough. Does everybody understand that? You know, my wife and I, when we started planting gardens, when we planted our first garden here, we started reading up on it. I thought you just move the grass out the dirt and clear a big plot. You put the seed in the ground and you water it. I didn't know anything about phosphate. What's the other stuff? Nitrate. All these other, I didn't know anything about that. You just water it. That's all. What else you need? And what happens is, marriages, if you're not careful, you could just think, well, all we need is some water. Marriage needs so much more than water. Does everybody understand that? Marriages need Bible study. It needs prayer time. It needs all of these different things for it to work. And the children need to see that. The children need to see how many of you want your children to have a good marriage? If you want them to have a good marriage, you got to show them one. You got to show them one. Does everybody understand that? Especially, I know how men feel about their daughters. You think about it, especially you men. You figure you got some knucklehead boys, y'all gonna be all right. Y'all can marry whatever. Y'all are tame, whatever. Y'all gonna be all right. I'm bringing up the daughters for a reason. You don't want your daughter just marrying anything. If you don't want your daughter to settle and you want them to be in a good marriage, then it's your responsibility to show them that good marriage. You have to show your daughters what you want them to marry. Do you want somebody mistreating your daughter? Do you want them ignoring your daughter and your daughter calling home saying, well, I'm calling you because, whoever's been gone all day. I don't know where they at. But I'm going to tell you, they'll think that's the norm if that's what they see you doing with their mama. They'll think that's just the way of life. That's how it is. We program our children to accept. We program them with the norm. Does everybody understand that? And so you think about what you want your daughter to marry. And then ask yourself, am I what I want her to marry? Am I the kind of husband that I want my daughter to marry? Does everybody understand that? And so, you live, you get older, you begin to pick up these lessons of things that you can do that you could have done better. You don't have to be my age, because I'm telling you now, you can do better. I'm telling you the mistakes that I've made, the things that I would change so that you don't have to be my age and thinking, man, so yeah, in my first marriage I could have done this, but now I'm in my second marriage or whatever the case is. Everybody understand that? So let me move on to something a little bit different now. So when divorce happens, it creates a whole nother dynamic of different relationships. I have seen more times than not. So let's say, for instance, now I'm divorced. And let's just pretend that I would be single. As a single man with an ex-wife and children, you would run into more women who would want you, as a single divorced man with children, to validate your love for her by hating your ex-wife and by neglecting your children. Does everybody understand that? You would run into more women. As a single divorced man with children, you'd run into more women today who would want you to validate your love for her by hating your ex-wife and neglecting your own biological children. You'll run into more of that. Why? Because she is intimidated. Maybe y'all don't have children yet, and she feel like you have a connection with a woman that she doesn't have a connection, that y'all don't have that connection yet because y'all haven't had children yet. Does everybody understand that? So it creates this dynamic. I thank the Lord that I'm married to a woman that I could just tell her I love her and she accepted. I ain't got to go cut my ex-wife's tires. Does everybody understand what I mean? Yes. I ain't got to. I don't have to mistreat my ex-wife to prove that I'm with her, to prove that I'm with my wife now. But I'm telling you, those are things that you run into if you a single man with an ex-wife. Women, it's an odd thing. You see that? And so I'm saying you ain't got to be single. You can stay married. Because listen, let me make this clear. Whatever energy you have now, you could put that in your first marriage. You ain't got to run your first marriage down in the ground and hope you start over again. And hope and think that your next one is gonna go better. Whatever energy you got now, you could put that in the marriage that you're in now. Does everybody understand that? Because I can promise you, it don't matter who you marry in this world, you're going to have some stuff to work on. That's right. Does everybody understand that? Yeah. Whoever you marry, you're going to have some stuff to work on. The grass, what did they say? The grass is not green on the other side? That's the truth. That's the truth. Just stay where you are. You know where all the potholes are in your own yard. You see? So to me, it doesn't make sense. Now, and I'm sharing this because oftentimes, and this is what I'm getting to, children become the casualty of their own selfish parents. Children are the ones that suffer. Does everybody understand that? You can raise some bitter children, and they'll love on you and they'll hug you every time they see you. But what's going to happen when they become adults? Does everybody understand that? You don't have to make your children afraid of commitment because you're not committed, or because you're afraid of commitment. Does everybody understand that? So my prayer is that we sincerely heard this today. That we're not. God don't want you starting over and get your mind on something else. You're married now. I'm telling you, it only goes downhill. Does everybody understand that? Let me start off by saying this. It is everybody that's married in here now. It is God's will for you to be married to who you are with now. Does everybody understand that? You ain't got to find out the hard way that everybody got issues. Does everybody understand? You ain't got to find that out the hard way. No matter how pretty it is on the other side, it's still, that one don't know how to cook. That one don't know how to do whatever. Does everybody understand that? You gonna, no matter who you marry, you gonna have some stuff to work on. So why not just invest in what's already there? Does everybody understand that? Do you know? You know, it naturally so. We get cars. We buy vehicles. And after a while, we have to do maintenance. You know, we have to change the oil. We have to change fuel filters and oil filter. Do all this maintenance. After a while, you know what people begin to think? Well, you know what? This ain't worth it. I'm going to just trash this car and go buy another one. But you know, today, you can buy a brand new car off the lot and it's got a recall on it. Yeah, you ain't got to get nothing with a recall. Does everybody understand that? At least you know, yeah, old Betty, every 6 months, is going to throw a rod or it's going to do this. I can depend on it. So I got a garage full of rods to put in it or whatever the case is. Does everybody understand that? Or you can get that new car, you don't know what it's doing. It's going to start flying when you get down the road. So my prayer is that we will make up our minds to abide by and abide in what we have now and make the best of it now. Your children are young still. So you can make an impression on them now. You know, especially little girls, they grow up wanting to marry their daddy. In other words, they want to find somebody exactly like their daddy. So you have to ask yourself, what example am I setting for my daughter? Does everybody understand that? Same thing for little boys. They gonna grow up and they gonna marry their mama. So then you have to ask yourself, what example? You're the first wife they see. You see that? You're the first husband that they see. The daughter will be the kind of wife to her husband that she see her mother being to her husband. The sons will be the kind of husband to his wife that he sees his daddy being to his mother. And you have to ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want for your children? Is it worth, you know, your own selfishness? Because that's what happens. One generation sacrifices the next one. Does everybody understand that? You can either make sacrifices for the next generation or you can sacrifice that next generation. Does everybody see that now? And so we have to be very careful with that. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say that? About the sacrifices. You either sacrifice for the next generation. In other words, I'm going to be the best husband I can be right now, so that my daughters will know what kind of man they're supposed to choose, and my sons will know what kind of husband they're supposed to be. You see that? Or you can live selfishly and say, well, you know what? Bump your mama. Does everybody understand that? Because really what you're saying is bump the children. I don't care how you think you love your children. If you don't love that wife, you don't love your children. Does everybody understand that? No way in the world. You are not going to be a crappy husband and then be a good daddy. It is impossible. Does everybody understand? And so we have to sacrifice. When I was growing up, people stayed together. They stayed together. And some of them had enough sense to try to work it out, to actually try to make something of it. Does everybody understand that? And so I'm not saying, because I know I'm going to put this on YouTube, I believe, and I know folks going to come out the woodwork about, are you telling me I'm supposed to stay in an abusive relationship? I'm talking to both people. Y'all ain't got to mistreat each other. Does everybody understand that?
Amen.
Both of you ain't got to mistreat each other. I'm talking to believers. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say now? And so I'm not telling you to stay in something abusive, but I'm telling you we have added all kinds of definitions to abusive. Does everybody understand that? Me telling you what I want to eat tonight is not abusive. Me telling you we ain't going out to eat tonight is not abusive. Does everybody understand that? That don't qualify. What I am saying is it is the job of both people, husband and wife, to make the best of their marriage. That is what God intends. The Bible tells us husbands to live joyfully with the wife of our youth. Does everybody understand? To live joyfully with the wife of our youth. He tells us in the book of Malachi, the 2nd chapter, for the husbands not to deal treacherously with their wives. Does everybody understand that? I think it's either in 1 Peter or it's in Colossians where he tells the husbands not to be bitter against their wives. Does everybody understand that? So that's a command. Live joyfully. I'm telling you, I enjoy my wife. Does everybody understand that? I enjoy our marriage. And I believe the Lord wants people, that's one of the main gifts of God, one of the best gifts of God outside of salvation that you can experience is marriage. Does everybody understand that? And I want to share something. I pray that you forgive me for being blunt. Most of us, when we come together as husband and wife, we ain't speaking in tongues. Does everybody understand that? Our bodies are responding to certain things. Now, I don't care how holy you are, it is lust. Does everybody understand what I mean? We all agree that it's lust? It ain't because of Bible study. It ain't because y'all had a good church service. Does everybody understand? But that's the only time God allows that is with your spouse. The wisest man that ever lived, Solomon, said to be ravished with your wife. Does everybody understand that? An uncontrollable desire for your wife. That's the only time God excuses that. Isn't that something? In your marriage. You see? So do you think he intends for us to live joyfully? Do you know animals, they mate and have other offspring, but do you know it ain't got nothing to do with lust? Does everybody do know that, right? Animals ain't looking at each other, lusting after each other. That's just their nature. Does everybody understand that? They mate with each other just out of nature. They're just programmed to do it. They ain't on the corner talking about some other animal that's just passing by like, ooh, that. But we have the ability to enjoy our spouse. And not just in the bedroom, but in life. And that's God's will. Does everybody understand that? And I'm telling you, that is God's intention for marriage. Let's go look at that. Let's go look at let's go to the second chapter of the book of Malachi. And we're going to the second chapter of the book of Malachi. I'm going to start reading at verse 13. It says, "And this have ye done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, and with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering anymore, or receiveth it with good will at your hand. Yet ye say, wherefore?" In other words, how? Or why? He says, "Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and thy wife." Everybody see that? Because the Lord hath been witness, how? Between thee and thy wife. Does everybody see that? Let me read that again. Because the Lord hath been witness. In other words, he was present. Does everybody understand that? He was there. Listen. Between thee and thy wife of what? Thy youth. Listen, look close now. Against whom thou hast dealt with how? The Lord is a witness. That ought to wake some folks up. Every time you mistreat your wife, every time something goes on, the Lord is a witness of it. Listen, between. Does everybody understand that? In other words, he is in the middle. He sees it, you see. Yet she thy what? Companion. What is she? Companion. What's the root word of companion? Company. That's who's you're supposed to spend more time with her than with anybody else. That's your companion. That's who you're supposed to keep company with. Does everybody understand that? Yet is she thy companion and the wife of what? Of what now? Does everybody understand what that means there? The wife of thy covenant? That's not talking about y'all got a marriage certificate between each other. Your covenant is your salvation, your relationship with God. You cannot have a right relationship with God and mistreat your wife. She's the wife of your covenant. That's what he means when he says y'all are joint heirs of salvation. Y'all together. If one of you going to heaven, y'all's both supposed to get there. Joint heirs. Does everybody understand that? Do we really understand that? You know, when God see you, he don't see two people. Y'all do know that, don't you? So let's think about that spiritually. How are you going to heaven and she going to hell? Does everybody hear me now? Yes, y'all joint heirs of salvation. Does everybody understand that? So she's the wife of your covenant. Verse 15, and did not he make what? One. What did he make? Does everybody see that? When you took your marriage vows, y'all became one. If she jacked up, you are too. We do understand that, don't we? You know that wife is a reflection of her husband? You know that's all day, every day. We do understand that? If you don't like the reflection that you're seeing in the mirror when you look at your wife, you are looking at yourself. That's your reflection. God said it so. And he said it to be that way. He understood men just naturally just hard-headed. They don't want to, you can't nobody hard to tell them that they need to grow in the Lord. So how am I going to show you? Through your wife. You might not hear anybody else, but you'll hear that one. When you get tired of that one, does everybody understand that now? Yeah, she's a reflection of you, brothers. Verse 15, and did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of what? Of the Spirit. And why? In other words, wherefore one? That he might seek a what? These children. These children is the reason why he made one. You're supposed to be on one accord. You're supposed to be growing together spiritually. Does everybody understand that? The children are not to be double-minded. They ought to know how to behave at all times. At all times. It ought not to be a difference when daddy get home or when mama's there. Does everybody understand that? So, look at what it says. Let me read that again, verse 15. And did not he make one, yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore one? That he might seek a godly godly what? Seed. So let's read. Let's think about what that's saying now. It is impossible to have a godly seed when they're being raised under the same roof with two different mindsets. It's impossible to have a godly seed when the husband is dealing treacherously with his wife. You can blame mama all day long. If she would just whoop the children like she's supposed to, they'll behave. Or if you be one, they'll behave. You can whoop them all day long. They'll learn to absorb them shots that you're giving them. You ever wonder why you can whoop a child and they don't change? It's because mom and daddy ain't one. It ain't got nothing to do with whooping them. Mom and daddy, you can whoop them all day long. Until mom and daddy become one, they will not be a godly seed. Does everybody understand that? Did we just read that in the Bible now? Look at what it says. Therefore, take heed to what? Your spirit. Take heed to what? Your spirit. So he's saying that husband that deals treacherously with that wife is something wrong with his spirit. You see that? And let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. Everybody see that? Did we just read that there? How are you going to prosper in life and you dealing treacherously? We have to be husbands. Does everybody understand that? And I'm telling you, we as men, we have to grow up and be men. We need to quit thinking everything's supposed to be fair. Quit thinking that, listen, God didn't tell you to marry your mama. Does everybody understand that? Your wife ain't there for your emotional stability. You are the stabilizer of the home. Not them. You are not to be in your feelings. Does everybody understand that? You are the emotional stabilizer of your home. Your wife ought not to be the one patting you on the back all the time, telling you it's going to be okay. Does everybody understand that? My wife ain't, we don't live that life where she's patting me on the back like, oh, sweet, it's going to be all right. You know what I hear in the background? Man up. How many of you women want that? Just, I love it when my husband, he's soft, just like I like him. Does everybody understand that? Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Don't the Bible say that? Amen. You know what that means? How many of you ever had to encourage the Lord Jesus Christ? How many of you had to say, oh, Lord, it's going to be all right. Don't cry. I got your back. Isn't it the other way around? And so we have to be men, brothers. I don't care how you were raised. We have to be men, godly men, according to the word of God. Does everybody understand that? It don't mean we as husbands, we don't lean on our wives, that we lean on each other, but I'm telling you, they ain't our mamas. Does everybody understand that? They're not there to comfort us because we had a bad day. We are supposed to be coming home. I had a good day. Does everybody understand that? When I was in the workforce and my ex-wife and stuff, I never came home and told her about what was going on at work. Never. I didn't want to bring that home. Never. I never. Does everybody understand what I mean? I wasn't coming home like, man, could you pray for me? Because I'm about to lose it. You know what that does? It reverses the role. And then you wonder why your wife have a hard time submitting. Because you putting her in the role of the Lord Jesus Christ. If she got to comfort you and push you out the door, go on, sweetheart, you get him today. You got this. Does everybody understand? How many of you women like that role? That's because it's not your role. Your husbands, don't put your wives in that predicament. God built you to shoulder whatever it is you got to go through. Your wife ain't built for that. Does everybody understand that? You know how you take comfort in your wife? You be ravished with her love. She ain't got to know what's going on at work. I'm not saying you don't have bad days at work, but she ain't got to hear about it. You just come on, sweetheart. Let's go. We're gonna make a new day today. I had 8 hours of trouble at work. We're gonna go out to eat somewhere. Let's go out to eat. Let's go do something. You can make a new day starting at 5 o'clock. Does everybody understand that? That's how you fix that. Don't come home and whine to your wife and you. Does everybody understand that? I hope we understand. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm telling you, you put your wife in this predicament where she's shouldering everything. Now she's wondering, so you okay? Are you happy today? That's not her job. Does everybody understand that? So the Lord wants us to know how to be husbands to our wives and to love our wives as Christ loved the church. Jesus Christ didn't have to lean on people. Does everybody understand that? Do you ever read in the Bible where his disciples are trying to comfort him? Do you know his disciples, when he chose them, they were jacked up? They had issues. But do you know he married them anyway? Does everybody understand that? He understood, y'all gonna have to grow, and I see what you're gonna become. I'm not mad at where you're at now. I can correct you, and we're gonna keep moving. You'll get there. Does everybody understand that? And I'm telling you, that's God have called us to do that and to be husbands. I'm telling you, to me, one of the biggest problems in this world is exactly what we're talking about now. Children are unstable. Grown folks don't know who they are nowhere in the world or in the Lord. Why? Because they don't have that affirmation that they need. What raised them? Does everybody understand that? So how many of you ever got a piece of fruit and it was just all twisted up? Like, like maybe a tomato that was bent, looked like it was folded in half or something. How many of you ever seen anything like it wasn't shaped the way you thought it should be shaped? Well, what made it shaped that way? Was it the truck ride from the farm to the store? No, it was the conditions. It was the conditions. And today we're raising up a messed up generation because of the conditions that they're growing up in. Why? Because everybody's selfish. Your mama don't love me, so I don't love her. When your mama get to acting right, then I get to acting right. Other than that, I'm going to just be out doing my own thing. Well, how does that look to a child? Does everybody understand that? Listen, that's not God's will. That's not God's will at all. I'm telling you, brothers, just like I tell a wife, you are not getting to heaven without submitting. I'm telling you, husbands, you ain't going to heaven without loving that wife. you going to have to love that wife. Does everybody understand that? I'm telling you, you're going to have to love her as Christ loved the church. Does everybody understand that? And the Lord ain't moody. He wasn't in and out of church, in and out with the church because, does everybody understand that? He wasn't taking breaks from the church. I'm telling you, we were all jacked up. But he wasn't taking breaks from, like, look, when y'all get it together, he understood you're going to get it together because I'm here. Amen. How are you going to get it together and I'm off building another house somewhere? So that's the way we husbands have to be. So yeah, your wife might need to grow. How's she going to grow without your input? How is she going to get it together and you're not there helping her to get it together? Does everybody understand that? I'm telling you, we got to do our part. Does everybody? Let's go real briefly. Let's go to the 5th chapter of the book of Ephesians. All right, the 5th chapter of Ephesians, we're going to start reading at verse 25. It says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church. And what did he do? What did he do? You know what that means? He sacrificed himself. He put his own comfort on the line for the church. Does everybody understand that? Yes, sir. Does everybody really understand what that means? He gave himself for it? How did he give himself for it? Let's start off from ground zero. First thing he did was decided, I'm going to redeem you. Y'all out there lost. And if I don't come and die for you, you're going to be lost for an eternity. So I'm going to redeem you. Does everybody understand that? That's the first decision that he made. You think they got summers up there in heaven? You think it ever get to be 100 degrees up there? You think he's got to walk anywhere up there if he don't feel like it? He left the comfort of his throne and came down to the hottest part of the world. When he got here, he knew sometime in the 20th century, they're going to have air conditioner. They're going to have cars. They're going to have all of that. But you know what? I'm going to choose a rough time to come. Don't you think he could have came in 2020? That was his choice. But he came before we started inventing all of these comforts on purpose. When he came, my favorite season of the year is fall. When he came, he didn't speak fall into existence to last the whole, look, fall, be here until I'm gone. He could have. The same way he made the world stand still for a whole 24 hours while Joshua and them fought. But did he do that? No. I'm going to come in a time. I'm going to come in a place. I'm not going to come to the North Pole because I like it cold. I'm going to come to the hottest part of the region of the world, the dirtiest part, where it's their custom to wash feet every time you go to somebody's house. Does everybody understand that? He gave himself. He made himself uncomfortable for our own so that he can send a comforter. Does everybody understand that? So that's how we look. Let's read that again. Husbands, love your wives even what? As. In other words, how did he love the church? He gave up his own comfort. You know what? God is so sovereign. Now, you keep in mind, we were his creation. We were made in his image. But I want you to think about the power that he has. He's so sovereign. Now, he didn't like folks dying and being lost forever. So he decided, I'm going to come and I'm going to die for mankind. But he's so sovereign, He could have said, well, you know what? Scratch all of y'all. Y'all all jacked up. I'm going to create a whole nother world. I'm going to put some new beings in it that ain't going to never mess up. And I'm going to blot it out of my mind that I ever knew that mankind right now ever existed. He could have did it and he'd have never remembered. The same way he don't remember sins when we repent and ask for forgiveness, he could have put it out of his mind. I'll never remember y'all. Yeah, y'all will be perishing forever, but I won't know anything about it because I'm God and I can make myself forget whatever I want to forget. But he didn't do that. Love wouldn't allow him to do it. You know why? He decided, I love people. I am love. How can I forget? I'm not going to sit here and act like everything is fine when I see you're lost. That's how the husband loves his wife. I'm not going to sit here and act like everything. Come on, sweetheart, get your Bible. Let's go. Let's see what the Lord's got to say about it. Let's do something about this situation that we're in right now. Does everybody understand that? Husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church. You see that? Look what it says now. And gave himself for it, verse 26, that he might do what?
Sanctify.
So if you want to know why the wife ain't growing, it's because the husband have not gave himself for her. Does everybody understand that? Look at what it says. That he might, in other words, this is why she is sanctified and cleansed. Why? Because the husband gave himself for her. Does everybody see that? He put his own dreams on the back burner. Does everybody understand that? All of the ambitions that he have, his family is first. My wife is first. Let's get this straight, and we can build on top of this. Does everybody understand that? Look at what it says, verse 26, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by what? Word. By what now? Word. By getting in my own room. By establishing my own life. By giving you the silent treatment, and eventually you're going to catch on and learn to do better. Is that the way it works? No. Everybody see that? By the word. That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water. Everybody see that? By the word. Verse 27. That he might do what? That he might do what now? A what? Glorious church. Not having what? Or what? But that it should be what? And what? That's the husband's job. You husbands, y'all are the only ones that can make that happen. Does everybody understand that? Husbands are the only ones that can make that happen. I can pray for your wife all day long. I can deliver her all day long. The question is, what is she going home to? Does everybody understand that? She ain't called to submit to me. She got a husband to submit to. Does everybody understand that? Let's read that again now. That he might do what now? Verse 27. That he might what? Present. What's another word? What's another way to say present? That it might be a present to him. A gift to him. Does everybody understand that? So listen. Let me make this clear, brothers and husbands. What you see in your wife is a reflection of you. Y'all are one. Does everybody understand that? You presenting her to yourself when you got married. Part of that marriage was whatever I'm planting, that's what I'm presenting to myself. Now you have to ask yourself this question, brothers: are you happy with what you seeing in the mirror? In other words, are you happy with what you are presenting back to yourself? If not, then you need to change yourself. Does everybody understand that? Isn't that what it says here? You present to yourself that wife. God is telling you how to have a wife without spot or blemish. If you see a spot or blemish, that means you have a spot or blemish. Does everybody understand that? So let's move on to what I'm talking about here. I know for a fact that when a woman is married to a man, especially if they in church together, they married and things like that, especially if she follows you here, she'll follow you wherever you go. She'll follow you wherever you go. But you have to ask yourself this: where am I leading her? Does everybody understand that? You know, you'd be a hypocrite to expect your wife to submit to you and to want your authority around when you yourself as a man can't stand authority. Does everybody understand that? If you don't like, let me put it this way. Let me just put it this way. If you can raise your hand, if I ask the question, do your wife have a problem with authority? If you could say yes, I would tell you to your face, you have a problem with authority. You are presenting her back to you. She is a reflection. That's what this is saying. She is a reflection of you, brothers. If you have an issue with authority, she can't help but to have an issue with authority. Does everybody understand that? If she have a problem with 3 o'clock, guess who else have a problem with 3 o'clock? I don't care I don't care what the Lord's revealing to you or what you think is going on. I'm telling you, whatever you can pinpoint in your wife, that's you. You ain't just get married. This ain't what we just got married yesterday. We still trying to figure. No, it ain't yesterday. Y'all years down the road, y'all are one. I can promise you. Y'all the same individual. Does everybody understand that? Verse 27, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle. Everybody see that? So if you can say, well, my wife ain't where she should be, then you ought to also say, so I got some work to do. I got some work to do. You can Bible study your wife to death. What does that matter? What is that Bible doing for you? Does everybody understand that? You can sit in the church all day long. I can preach to her all day long. What does it matter? I'm not living with her. I'm not her husband. I can't present her to myself. Does everybody understand that? Not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. Verse 28, so ought men to love their wives as what? Does everybody see that? You know that's Bible, don't you? You're supposed to love your wife as your own body. Would you mistreat your own body? Do you ever skip out on yourself? I'm tired of me. Does everybody understand that? I'm going to go spend a day across town somewhere because I'm sick of me. Is that the way it works? The same way you can't be separated from yourself just naturally so. Somebody that can do that, what do we call them? Schizophrenic, crazy, whatever. And you know that's the way you appear to the Lord? Didn't we just read in the book of Malachi? He made one? So how is one skipping out on itself? How is one neglecting itself? How does one need some time? I need some me time. You gave up me time when we got married. Does everybody understand that? If you still need me time, brothers, you young brothers that's listening to this, if you still need me time, don't get married. Does everybody understand that? You ought to love your wife that much where you want to be around her all the time. Does everybody understand that? I ain't saying y'all got to be around each other all the time. I'm telling you, you ought to want to be. Does everybody understand that? Don't listen, brothers, especially you young brothers that ain't married. Don't be one of those people. You need time with the boys. My Bible tells me to flee youthful lusts. That's a youthful lust. That was what the playground was for. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, that was playground. You might have got away with that when you were in junior high school with a little girlfriend. So my prayer is that we'll truly understand this. Let us not fall into this world system of having two different lives. Does everybody understand that? Flee youthful lust. You know, even when I talked about the mistakes I made in my first marriage, one of the mistakes I didn't make, since I was married, I didn't hang out with single friends. You had to have a wife, and we were gonna be together. Does everybody understand that? It was family time. Does everybody understand what I mean now? It was family time. Hey, come on. What did your wife do? What do you and your wife do? Okay, so I bring my wife over. That's the way that was. We weren't boys like that. We men now, and we got families. We're gonna act like it. Does everybody understand that? We're supposed to flee youthful lust. You see that? So this tells us, he that loveth his wife in verse 28, what does he do? Love himself. Everybody see that? Verse 29, for no man ever yet hated his own flesh. Do we see that?
Yes, sir.
Do we really see that? So let me take a detour just real quick. Did we just read that?
Yes, sir.
Joshua, you there?
Yes, sir.
Read that again.
For no man ever yet hated his own flesh.
Everybody see that?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it sounded like what it sounded like coming out of my mouth. Do we believe that's true?
Yes.
That means it's impossible for anybody to hate themselves. That means it is impossible for anybody to hate themselves. Does everybody understand that? You say, well, Brother Bolden, what about folks that commit suicide? That's the ultimate form of self-worship. I'm too good to go through my problems. You know that's what it ultimately boils down to? I love myself so much. This world don't deserve me. I hope y'all get it. I'm trying to tell you the deception of the devil. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but what does he do?
Never
And what?
share it.
Everybody see that? Isn't that what we do? Didn't we just get finished doing that? How many of you said, I hate myself today, I'm not going to eat. I don't deserve to eat because I'm across town anyway. Is that what you said? No, I'm hungry. Where's the ribs at? I'm about to obey this Bible and nourish myself. And cherish it. Well, the same way you do that, it's the same way you feed yourself, husbands, you feed your wife.
Amen.
If you care about your own soul, you ought to care about your wife's soul.
Amen.
Does everybody understand that? I'm telling you, brothers, don't be the cause of your family going haywire. Don't be the cause of your children growing up bitter, not knowing how to act in society, not knowing how to be established anywhere. Don't you be the cause of them not being able to trust people, not being able to trust relationships. Why would a child grow up and trust marriage when they see that yours was in the dumps all the time? You, as a husband, it is your job to make marriage look good to your children. Does everybody understand that? That's your job. The husband is commanded to live joyfully with his wife. Everybody see that? It's your job to make that marriage look good, and to make that those children think, you know what? I can't wait to grow up and get married because I want what my parents got. That ought to be their dream. You know why? Why you can turn on the TV and you can see all kind of superheroes. You can see Superman. You can see, Iron Man and all that stuff. It's because the devil knows husbands are failing. Does everybody understand that? When I was growing up, I didn't have heroes. Superman was not my hero. Does everybody understand that? Popeye was not my hero. I had a real live living Superman. Does everybody understand that? A Superman that I could touch. Not one to watch on TV and fascinate my mind about. So why did the devil give us a replacement, a substitute in every form? Why did he do that? Because he knows that I need to give children something to look up to outside of their daddy. Because daddies are failing. They ain't loving their wives as Christ loved the church. They selfish. Does everybody understand that? You brothers, you got sons, ask your son, who's your hero? Who do you want to be like? If he don't say you, something's wrong. Does everybody understand that? If he don't say you, something's wrong. There's a disconnect. I'm telling you, we have to look at ourselves. Does everybody understand that? I'm talking about us. We could talk about the other species all day long. We could talk about what the women are doing all day. We could talk about, I'm telling you, but that home, it starts with us. It starts with us. We might not like it, but does everybody understand that? But Jesus Christ was here before a church ever was coming to existence. That husband is the first one. Does everybody understand that? So my prayer is that we will examine ourselves where we are today. One way we can do it is by looking at our wife. To me, that's a beautiful thing. That we can look at our wife and gauge where we are. Even outside of the word. Even if does everybody understand that? There was a time when people were living, they didn't have this Bible. They couldn't open up their Bible and turn nowhere. There was nothing like that. So how could a man gauge? There were no preachers back in those days. So how could a man gauge where he was? I look at my wife. Does everybody understand that? We can listen. Abraham was the father of faith. It don't mean that Abraham didn't have room to grow. Does everybody understand that? So we can look at Sarah and his wife and say, oh, she was a contentious somebody. But what happened when Sarah suggested, why don't you go marry another woman? Did he argue with her? No, because I got it in me. Sarah was who was being presented. Everybody understand that? Sarah was being, when she was contentious, is because Abraham had something on the inside of him. Does everybody understand that? And you notice how, if you continue to read the book of Genesis and you see how Abraham began to grow, you see Sarah moving right along with him. You see her moving right along. Does everybody understand that? Does everybody believe that? Yes. Wasn't she in the book of Hebrews? In what we call the wall of faith? Whose daughters you are? Isn't that what the apostle said? That y'all are the daughters of Sarah? That means she became something more than what she started off. Amen. Everybody see that? But how did she become that way? Because Abram became Abraham. He started living up to what God wanted him to live up to. And I'm telling you, husbands, if you want your wife to grow in the Lord, you're going to have to grow in the Lord. You're going to have to start seeing some stuff about yourself. Does everybody understand that? I'm telling you, it's not hard to catch. It ain't. Does everybody understand that? I can tell you from my own experience, the Lord is more than happy. If you ask the Lord sincerely this prayer, Lord, I know some stuff off with me. Will you tell me what it is and help me to get to the place where you want me to be? You think the Lord's going to reject that prayer? He's going to come running, and you ain't going to have to wait a week or 2 weeks for him to answer that prayer, I can promise you. That's one prayer. That's a guaranteed answer. Does everybody understand that? So my prayers is that we'll take heed to that. Let's look at our wives. Let's see, and let's know that we're joint heirs with them. I'm telling you, I don't want to go to heaven without my wife. What good would it be for me to get there and know I failed in my assignment here? Does everybody understand that? I don't want to go there without her. I'd be miserable if I get there and my wife ain't there. I know what am I here for? Does everybody understand that? If I have failed, my number one ministry is sitting right on side of me. If I have failed in that, why would I want to go? I'd be a fool to think, well, at least I made it. Ooh, I tried to help her, but she was just too messed up. But at least, thank God I'm here. I live in eternity, even in the presence of Christ, thinking, man, I've failed miserably. My first ministry was for my wife. That was my first ministry. Does everybody understand that? So my prayers, we'll start living like we're joint heirs together of salvation. You see that? Because we are. All right.